Thank you.
Hi. Hey. Thank you, TV.
Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks for having me back here in Sweden. I love this town. This is my third DevSum, so congratulations to you guys for coming. I thank you so much for having me. I just gotta say though, it seems like I have a lot more energy not having slept and wearing the same clothes as I was wearing Wednesday than him, right? I think TB was out drinking aquavit late last night. So yeah, here's what we're gonna talk about today. Whoops, we're gonna look at my phone in a minute. Oh yeah, I gotta tell you about this stuff. I'm supposed to tell you about this stuff. I'm not a Microsoft employee. I used to work on some server teams a very long time ago. You Swedish people are so beautiful, it's hard to tell if anybody as old as I am. Anybody with gray hair here that remembers Windows NT? Please say yes. Oh, a lot of you. All right, well, I worked on Windows NT and the first Microsoft Web Server, IS4. I worked on the first Microsoft Directory service, the predecessor to Active Directory. So yeah, I've been doing this a long time, and you've never seen me before, unless you've been to this conference. Because throughout my career, I've got the pleasure to stand next to the big guy many, many times. So you don't notice me, but you notice the big guy. And no, I wasn't that guy that crashed Windows 95 on a worldwide live TV event. Does anyone remember that? That guy's career turned out to be awesome. Great guy. So that actually wasn't, that's a polar bear in a snowstorm. That was a joke. We're going to have, if you don't mind, there's a little bit of a flicker. I guess you had this problem yesterday, too. So it's not my grossly overpriced Surface Book that's the problem. It's something with the video. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about computer vision. I'm totally into computer vision, which means all that machine learning and artificial intelligence and all that type of stuff that's happening in this revolution. We're going to talk about how easy it is to implement and use these type of technologies. And then, if you know me, we're going to do a ton of demo. And I've got some crazy new beta demo stuff, and some of it may crash, and those are humor opportunities. But I've got a few nice little peeks into the future of what's coming. And then some of the stuff we're doing here now. You don't know my company, but we build software for large companies and small companies all over the world, including Microsoft and Apple and Google and companies like that, and NASA and things like that, whatever. Here's famous people using our software. Oh, this is a good opportunity for humor. I'm trying to entertain you, right? This is the second day. You were out late last night. I'm trying to get you energetic. You would know us from not the polar bear in the snowstorm. You would know us from oh goodness, that might be a hassle today. Top left, the map of the United States of America, the blue and the red. Everyone in the free world has seen that application, whether it be on CNN or some of the worldwide network television or some of the other network television that we do. That's us. Believe it or not, that's .NET. That's C# and DirectX. That's a big old WPF application with millions of lines of code, which means on broadcast television during an event like the United States presidential elections, 250 million people are watching it all at the same time. You know what an SLA is? You know what the SLA for broadcast television is? We take it for granted. This is fairly interesting, and they're only giving me an hour, so I got to get going here, off of stories. But we take it for granted triple nines, right? 99.999% uptime. Azure's SLA, and so is Amazon's Web Services SLA, is triple nines, right? But that still means you're down once a quarter if you do the math. You know, once every 3 months, Azure goes down, and they still fulfill their SLA. Once every 3 months, AWS goes down. On broadcast television, the SLA is 100%. The app has to run 100% of the time, which means when we were building this app for the first Obama election 3 elections ago, we had to work directly with Microsoft fixing all the bugs in the XAML stack because the application was crashing under load. Now, believe it or not, it runs on Windows and it runs flawlessly and never goes down. And the only bad news is we elect imbeciles for our president. Did I say, am I being recorded? Well, you're clapping for that. Do you think all of us Americans are stupid? Come on, only the ones in our federal government are stupid. And I said that out loud too, didn't I? You know what? I don't have a computer. I bet I don't have computer audio. I want to show you a video to set this thing up. Bear with me. I don't want to do that. Now my screen is flickering. Hold on. I definitely won't want to show you this movie. I want to show you this. You're not going to hear this too well, so I'll just talk to it. I've been doing a lot of work in Hollywood lately. I live in San Diego, California, which is on the Mexico border. We're about 100 miles south of Hollywood, 100 of the hardest miles in the world, because it's the world's worst traffic, right? But we're doing a lot of work there in software, changing the way, ultimately, that we are going to watch and be entertained by movies. You saw that giant robot-type guy. The reason I show you that is because I don't know how much you know about Hollywood. I'll keep things quiet while you present. Does it... I realize your native language is not English, but which one am I supposed to answer? Which is yes and which is no? Honestly, I think I do this, right? I don't want it to say... Yeah, but you Thank you for that help. Remember I told you I worked on the Windows team? Thanks a lot. Here, let's just get it ready. We're risking, my email coming up and saying, you might not be a man, so you need this special drug. But we'll just go with it. Wow, this is starting off with a bang. So the reason I showed you this is you may know this world. This wasn't my world, so the last couple of years working with Hollywood. But to render a scene like in Avatar or some of the current movies, Avatar is almost 10 years old now, if you can believe that. To render one scene, a scene is typically 10 to 20 seconds long. To render one scene is 2,500 servers of the most powerful servers in the world for 3 days. One 10-second scene. The movie's an hour and a half long. It takes months just to render the movie. That's the type of 3D they have in Hollywood. Well, how in the world? And Avatar 2, did you know Avatar 2 actually exists? Right? You know Avatar, right? The hot blue lady, all these beautiful blue people. Avatar 2 is delayed by 2 years. You want to know why? They can't figure out how to render quick enough. The world doesn't, actually that is public knowledge. The world does know that. They cannot figure out how to render quick enough. So they're developing their own rendering technologies for this 3D. And the machine learning curve, which we'll talk about in a second, and Moore's Law, which we'll talk about in a second, and hardware is just not keeping up with them. So how are we supposed to render the blue lady in augmented reality on telephones or in HoloLens glasses or any glasses, 3D glasses or augmented reality glasses for that matter? That's the trick here. Anybody recognize that? I kind of just casually mentioned it. You would have to have gray hair or remember Bill Gates' digital decade speech to remember this. This is Moore's Law. Dr. Gordon Moore, founder of Intel, made a prediction way before Intel existed, about 60 years ago. And the prediction was basically, I've seen a trend that every 2 years our computing power doubles. Really, the prediction was we can cram twice as many transistors on a circuit board every 2 years, right? That prediction, that uncanny prediction, has continued for 60 years. Why does that matter to us developers, us software? Everyone's a software person, right? A developer. There's no grossly overpaid designers in the room. I don't see any black turtlenecks and berets with those cigarette things that they have. I'm just kidding. I have total appreciation for designers. I even have a little appreciation for network people whose job it is to prevent us from getting software into production. And I assume there's a few of you there. So why did I go off on that tangent? I was talking about Dr. Gordon Moore. This is almost current. We're still on this curve. There are people that maintain that Moore's law has slowed down. It has not. Our CPUs are getting faster and faster and faster. Intel bases their product planning, and we do a lot of work with Intel too. They base their product planning assuming Moore's law will continue to execute, right? What does that mean to us software people? That means we have tremendous computing power. That means this whole machine learning thing is just going to get better and better and better and better. In terms of computer vision, it ultimately means in a timely manner, we're going to be able to have blind people see. They won't really see. They'll wear glasses that will tell them what's in front of them. That is very realistic in the next 5 years. I find this interesting. This is Moore's law, and I'm going to get to a demo. I just got to get through this first PowerPoint, okay? This is Moore's law as mapped against animals and the computing power of mammals. Notice the top right. We're on a collision course in 2025, if Moore's law continues to execute, whereby CPUs will calculate at the speed of the human brain. Right? No, I mean, that doesn't mean human beings are smarter. Sorry, that doesn't. Can you tell I haven't slept in 3 days and am wearing the same clothes? That doesn't mean machines will be smarter than humans. It just means they'll calculate as quickly. There's a lot of hysteria about this dystopian views. I think that's my next slide. These two books, if you've read them, have dystopian views about robots and machines taking over the world. And we're on a collision course with crazy power, which means we have a responsibility as programmers. When I grew up programming, we called us programmers. Now we call us developers, engineers. We have a responsibility. We're going to be given in REST-based APIs the power to do some crazy, crazy stuff. And there's lots of bad guys in the world. There's even bad guys in Sweden, for God's sakes. Not all the bad guys live in the United States of America, right? A lot of this power is going to have to be used responsibility, or else the world of hacking is going to become terrible. Stephen Hawking, didn't he just pass? Amazing scientist, amazingly smart guy with ALS disease. But he maintained that robots are taking over, and that, after he's long gone, that, which would be in, I guess, 2035, robots are going to take over the world. I'm not as smart as Mr. Hawking, but I totally disagree. That's his quote, by the way. But it is something to think about. It is something to talk about after a bunch of aquavit in the bar tonight. So a lot of you guys know this already really quickly, because I'm going to be throwing these acronyms all day long. Virtual reality, I don't really care about. It's typically game-playing type scenarios where you're completely occluded from the outside world. You're living in the game and shooting things or whatever you're doing, driving cars or things like that. The world I live in is augmented reality. And that can be something like a Microsoft HoloLens, where it maps automatically the objects in the room, and holographic images sit in chairs in the room because there is cognizance of the spatial awareness. It's smartphones where you see 3D or holographic images embedded in a natural environment. Mixed reality, I could swear Microsoft made up that term, but it's basically my ultimate dream, and that is, and we're close, interactive holographic images, interactive holographic characters. Think of someone like Stephen Hawking. Think about Mr. Hawking being a holograph right here, or hologram right here. You'd have to wear glasses currently to see him, and having an interactive conversation with his hologram, the artificial intelligence, so that he could answer in context. Or you could say, you know what, Mr. Hawking, do you mind rolling your wheelchair over here, or steering your motorized wheelchair? Do you mind steering it closer into the light? And the holographic image doing that. We are very close to doing that stuff. AI, artificial intelligence, is pretty obvious. And then machine learning, of course, which is computers getting smarter by themselves, learning these patterns. We have brilliant people in the world working really hard on machine learning. Anyways, there's this amazing company, Xenoholographic, I'm involved in. They're building enterprise, cloud-based, augmented reality, mixed reality with artificial intelligence. They're doing this right now, and I'm going to show you a little bit of it in a second. So, first I'm going to show you a video. So remember the blue lady from Avatar and the bully mech lady, giant robot type guy. You can't hear me, but there is a 3D rendering, holographic rendering, in the Microsoft HoloLens of that bully mech character. Now, what makes that interesting is, remember the heavyweight objects that movies use? That had to be converted manually at this point in time, manually converted to a lightweight enough so it could be compiled into a Unity object inside a Microsoft HoloLens application. Does everyone get that? That there's this world, this gaming engine, Unity. If you're a real engineer, you absolutely hate it because it's like when us old people first saw HTML, we went, what? Who would do this stuff, right? We had beautiful binary protocols and beautiful computer programming languages, and then we got this HTML stuff, and we went, what? Well, anyways, Unity makes this stuff really easy. The problem with this is it's compiled into the app, still fairly heavyweight, but super cool nonetheless, right? I'm probably not supposed to show you that because it's owned by Hollywood. Now, let me see if I can pull this off. I have to think how I can pull this off. The small challenges in life. Okay, so now I'm running this application called Xenoplay. It's doing the downloading thing right now. What it's doing in real time is downloading that 3D object. I have a marker here in the content. Okay, there's bully mech. Now, that at first glance may not be that awesome to you. You want me to tell you why that's awesome? That was converted from a heavyweight Hollywood object into its form, hot. It's running on Azure servers in the west coast of the United States. We didn't have the time to stand up this Azure instance, this AR cloud web thing here in Europe. That's amazing that it did that. This is the future, getting 3D content like this to work on a freaking smartphone. This is an iPhone, and I personally hate my iPhone, but it's working. The next step is talking to this thing, right? That's the next step. Or talking to Stephen Hawking or a famous sports person that has passed away. I'm a huge hockey fan, so I know Zetterberg. Are any of the Swedish hockey players still in the Stanley Cup playoffs? They were on Tampa Bay. Backstrom, thank you, on the Caps. Yeah. But he's alive. So imagine if he had passed on and we were talking to Backstrom. All right, let's get rolling here. That is, I hope you understand, that's a highly impactful demo. It also used an AR marker through computer vision. In other words, it recognized that logo through computer vision, went up to the cloud, matched it with the 3D holographic object, pulled it down. The Unity conversion was done hot in Azure, pulled it all down, and it did it all in real time in a server that is, well, at least for me, almost 3 days away, right? That's pretty amazing stuff. Now, we can do these AR markers, and I'm going to get to why do we need AR. I know some of you are thinking, oh, well, why do we need AR? If you have gray hair like me, like, why do we need AR? I'm going to get to that soon. These AR markers are instantiated in different ways, one of which is computer vision. Obviously, another way is a QR code or a barcode or something like that. You hold a phone up to a code, and it renders some type of experience to you. Long time no see. Render some type of enriched, immersive experience to you. The other ways we do this is, I mentioned the HoloLens has spatial awareness. It maps the room. So if I were to walk, if I had a HoloLens device, I walked into an environment that had these, and it knew this environment, it would just render the experience for me. The geolocation thing, GPS coordinates, makes total sense, right? If I wander into this conference center, it knows I'm physically here, and I get some type of giant bully mech robot, or I get a little caption on each of your heads that shows me your emotional profile about what I'm talking about, right? Whether you're happy, sad, contempt, angry about Trump and taking it out on me, right? I assume your king and queen are awesome people, right? They are. Yeah, okay, so there's different ways to render these markers. So did I kill, oh darn. Oh no, I didn't, here it is right here. Let me show you a few ways that we render these markers. And this isn't, you know, whoops, I need my sharing software back. You can't hear what it's saying. Oh, Tim, you need more sleep, don't you? Did I tell you I brought my wife here with me? I did. She also loves this place, but she's asleep, and as far as I know, she's going to sleep all day. Here we go. How about this? This does an AR marker and does this, you know, 3D. It's not that impressive. This is going to be a little offset, but in selling a car, this is a Tesla. That's the suspension of a Tesla. But in real, that's a little screwed up right now. But in real, you go into a Tesla dealership and you hold your phone up to it, and it explodes every part about it. Everything you ever wanted to know, engine types, the inside dashboard, things like that. Makes sense, right? I once sat in a meeting with this guy when I was a young man and some Microsoft people. And so you get the joke. This guy was no angel. God bless his soul. This shows that AR markers can move around. Mickey, actually, it's not even moving, but it follows around. Oh, here, this marker is a full-blown HD video. Notice how quickly that came down? Actually, it came down when I instantiated the app. But it's a 3D way to look at it. Trying to find if I have anything interesting left. No, I guess not. So there's an example of how we instantiate AR markers in production type environments. So I have a good friend. This guy's, I think bottom left. Steve Googs from Microsoft. I think he's older than I am. He's been working at Microsoft for, I think, 30 years now. He talk about hilarious stories. Anyways, he owns AI in terms of marketing at Microsoft right now. And he came out with I saw him do a speech the other day, and he came out with these emerging patterns, and I thought, wow, he's really got it figured out. You know, as of right now, this is the type of stuff we're doing in production. When we think about AI right now, typically it's a bot, right? The world's consumer and retail-based companies, a lot of them, at least the bigger ones, are switching to bot technology for technical support or for customer support. United Airlines definitely has not, because I talked to a little lady in India yesterday that it was of no help at all for me to get here. But a lot of companies are turning to this. Typically, as we think about this type of thing, ambient intelligence, that's the one I like the most. That's the one I'm involved in the most. That's mapping a 3D room. That's me talking to Stephen Hawking and having him talk back. Me having him ask questions. Me asking him, hey, have we solved ALS? ALS is the disease he had. And him saying, yes, standing up, walking over here, and sitting on a chair. That stuff is here and coming. The biggest thing we'll see, according to Googs, and frankly, that I'm predicting also, is just learning. Assisting professionals by wearing glasses and just getting this immersive learning experience where you're connected with maybe someone across the world who's teaching you about what you're looking at. What's a use case for that? I don't know. You're working on this presentation system and trying to debug it. And the creator of the technology is in, I don't know, Cluj, Romania. And you're here in Stockholm. And you're both debugging and looking in an immersive, holographic way at the same thing. And then autonomous systems, we most think about self-driving cars like the Tesla. But really, it's the machine learning that could look for patterns in hacking. It look for anomaly detection in terms of security, which I'll show you in a few minutes if I can get going faster. Yeah, okay. So, hey, there's my buddy Geneva. Let's see. I was in Hollywood on Monday, Friday, Tuesday, can't remember. If you're into movies, you know her last name. Geneva is the daughter, I believe, of the famous Wasserman family, who's produced a huge amount of Hollywood's movies over the last 60, 70 years. I recently was talking to Geneva about a problem they have in Hollywood, and that is, I hope you find this interesting. When a movie is created, they typically film 2 to 3 times as much content as what actually makes it into the movie at the end, right? There's this long editing process that goes for as long as 2 years. In Avatar 2's case, that editing process could be like 5 years. But the editor's job is to cut that down into a movie that makes sense and still is in time, in the time constraints that they have. The other issue is, and we're guilty of this as technology professionals too, they get so attached to the content that they need to have people, like testers for your software, they need to have people see the movies in their different cuts as the 1 to 2 years goes on to get feedback. So for 75 years, Hollywood gives people $20, or now it's $100. They grab random people off the streets in Hollywood within a 5-mile radius of the studio. They put them in a room like this. They have them watch the movie as it is cut, as it is edited, and then they interview them afterwards. How'd you like it? What did you think about this character? You know, that type of thing, like a focus group type thing. It's wildly inefficient for many reasons, not the least of which is that every person they grab off the street, when they say, how'd you like the movie? We love it. I love it. Want to know why? I want to come do it again and get another $100. I'll be back here tomorrow. It's a huge problem. So I was talking to Geneva, and she's like, Tim, you guys do all this computer vision stuff and the analysis of faces. What if we use that type of technology and we actually watched people watch movies and get their real sentiment by the analysis of their face? Sounds a little creepy, right? But you opt in, you get $100 and you opt in to be watched, and you watch the movie, and you may say it was great, But the computer doesn't lie. Computer vision doesn't lie. It may say, and it maps it frame by frame, scene by scene, across the movie, contempt, sadness, happiness, all that type of stuff. So you get real sentiment analysis. That is wildly important to this multi-billion-dollar industry because one actor or one bad scene could ruin a movie. The latest Harry Potter movie, it doesn't matter what Hollywood tells you, lost a ton of money. Hollywood isn't the wildly, and even the movie production industry in Europe is not the wild moneymaker it was in the past many, many years. A lot of these movies hemorrhage money, and it's because one little thing. There is an American actor from Austria who used to be the governor of California. Are you with me? Believe it or not, there's a new, where is he thank you. There's a new, man, I need some sleep. There's a new Terminator movie that has already been shot that's in the editing process. But this actor is significantly older than I am. And having people that they're having trouble. The editors and Geneva, who's the producer of the movie, are suspecting that he doesn't have enough credibility as an old guy to pull off the role he's playing. That makes sense, right? So some of the Herculean things he does in the movie, 75-year-olds just can't do. Let's just face it. So they suspect this, but they keep getting people in the movie and saying, or watching the preview of the movie saying, oh, it was great. You know, I love Schwarzenegger. He was awesome, blah, blah, blah. Well, when the computer doesn't lie and says there's a lot of contempt in people's faces and disbelief when they're watching Schwarzenegger jump off waterfalls and hurtle through, space and time and all this type of stuff. Have I set it up enough? Here is, let me find it. That's not it. How about we do it this way first? Movie, sentiment. So, the first incantation of this application, believe it or not, is a UWP application, Windows application. I'm just going to profile myself because Hollywood didn't want the computer to determine this type of stuff. Not that it could determine the amount of schooling I had, but it certainly could figure out my race and my age. Now, I've said play. There's nothing in this user interface other than this movie, okay? But the camera came on. This is contained to Windows 10, and it's using the Windows Hello API very, very liberally. It's done a facial recognition on me and authorized me to be able to watch this movie. We'll get it started here. This is my favorite movie in the world. I'm a fly fisherman. Please tell me you know what that is, because it's huge here in Scandinavia. When you catch salmon, yeah, that's me. This is A River Runs Through It with a very young Brad Pitt in it. Now notice if I walk away from the movie, it's going to say in a second here, this is all configurable. It's going to say, hey, Tim, where the heck are you? You're the one we're paying $100 to watch this movie. You better get over here and watch it, or else we're going to stop the movie. Now, can I use you? Do you mind? Really quick, come up here. So if the pirating of movies is a huge problem. Huge problem. Can you stand over my left shoulder? Thank you. So it's going to say, hey, Tim, this handsome Swede guy is not authorized to watch this movie. We know what you're doing. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Wait, stay right here. Stay right here. Stay right there. Okay. Now come here and switch. And in a second here, it's going to go, hey, you're not Tim. You're a handsome Swedish guy, and you're not allowed to watch this movie. And I think at this point, we expire the content. Now, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. This thing is locked down to DRM content. It's totally locked down to Windows. But in a world like this, is that enough? No. We need the broad reach of the web, right? I told you I started on binary protocols and, assembly language programming. Did I tell you all that? We had all this control and power. Well, now we have this web thing, and we've got to extend this through the web. That makes security a real challenge for, a movie made in Hollywood, extending it to you people in Stockholm to do a real preview securely. That's what we're working on now. That's a tricky problem to handle. This is, what the heck are we looking at? We're looking about a bunch of fancy reports about the sentiment of this movie, but I wanted to show you, this is what I wanted to show you. Check this out. This is the same movie with everyone that has watched it, all their aggregated sentiment. Now I gotta make this smaller, so you can see. See that control on the bottom? It's mapping in a grand view of everyone, their sentiment frame by frame over the movie. Meaning, if Hollywood sees, and this is phony data. Actually, I'm not supposed to show you the real stuff. But assume that Austrian actor, assume this young Brad Pitt was that Austrian actor. You can scroll through everywhere that particular actor appears in the movie. See a very young Brad Pitt? And you could map that contempt use case that I was talking about against every frame in the movie. That gives Hollywood the ability to recut the movie, to make it more successful, to make more money. Does that make sense to you? This is all artificial intelligence that is available to you and to me in a REST API. I'm not an expert in machine learning. I don't know if you are. I went to school 35 years ago. We didn't have machine learning. We had other things, right? But I know how to call a REST API. This is the Microsoft Cognitive Video Indexer API. Free to use as a developer. You can map this against any video or movie you have right now, any piece of content you have. And it will pull out stuff like, I don't know if I showed you this, but it's automatically figured out the actors in this movie. There's a guy named Tom Skerritt, and here is everywhere where Tom Skerritt appears in the movie. It did that all automatically. Let me scroll down. It's pulled out the metadata from the movie. So remember I told you I'm a fly fisherman? The Big Blackfoot River is one of my favorite places in the world in Missoula, Montana. And it's figured out everywhere in the movie where either the Big Blackfoot is mentioned or where, see, Big Blackfoot, or you can't hear it, but it just said that, or where it appears, right? Here are generic stuff like everywhere we have sky. Do you not find that amazing? It did that all automatically. And then for us retail type people, it's done this mostly out of the credits, but it's pulled out everywhere where someone's mentioned Apple Computer or these type of things. And then here is the sentiment over speech map, frame by frame. So imagine that Austrian actor where he's jumping off a waterfall and he's 75 years old and he survives and all that. You might see a really negative speech sentiment there, or when people yell at each other, things like that. All right, makes sense? I think that's pretty amazing. I hope you think that's amazing too. Ultimately, it's going to improve the entertainment process for all of us. And I'll talk about the future of movies here in a second. This is another amazing company that does computer vision in a retail way across the world. And if we are going to have some aquavit in the bar tonight, I'd be more than happy to talk about GDPR and how badly you guys screwed it up. But not as badly as how Americans screwed up HIPAA. Do you know what HIPAA is? Yeah, the Healthcare Act, Privacy Act in healthcare. We screwed that up too. Eventually, it took us about 10 years, but we fixed it so it no longer stifles innovation and technology in healthcare, and I feel like we're going to get there in GDPR too, but it's going to take a couple years. Anyways, this is an amazing piece of software that runs everywhere except for where GDPR is in effect. This would be, actually it still runs here in Europe, because many companies are just ignoring GDPR. Did I tell you we're going to talk about this tonight with Aquavit? This company uses inexpensive cameras, and I mean like $20 cameras and surveillance cameras, to do audience measurement. But in this case, I'm showing you the metaphor by which it works. They typically, in a digital sign, a digital sign has a sensor in it, or a camera, or a surveillance camera. And they typically show beautiful people doing beautiful things until it sees you, because movement and beautiful people eating beautiful foods and things like that, that gets you to look. Once you look, a lot of stuff happens. The content changes. The content changes to what the advertiser wants you to see. In many cases where they don't have privacy law, like most of Asia, it might change from beautiful Swedish people drinking champagne to beautiful Asians drinking champagne. It's also doing a facial recognition against a worldwide bad guys database, looking for terrorists and things like that. And it also does the stolen children thing, which is also a worldwide organization. It's looking for stolen children. And we have this thing in the US called Amber Alerts. It's also a stolen children database. It's looking for persons of interest. That all happens in 3 milliseconds because of machine learning and because of the advances in computer vision and Moore's Law and all this stuff I talked to you about. So I don't need to show you visual or digital content. I still don't know why that doesn't work. That is just mind-boggling. Has anyone ever shown the desktop and have it not work? Anyone? Anyone? I didn't think so. I don't need to show you a lot of digital content. Beautiful people doing beautiful things, right? But the minute it sees me, it changes to what this particular casino wants me to see, right? At the same time, it's doing all that. It's got terrible music with it, too. It's that EDM stuff that my 22-year-old listens to. That's supposed to be funny. At the same time, all that's happening in real time, and it's capturing a number of attributes of the face and sending them off. And this would be a typical alert that if it were to find a bad guy, that one over here, 5:23, that's Pacific time. So I was working on this demo on the right. That's me. That's me in a 10-year-old surveillance camera. Look at the quality of that picture. It's awful, right? It's awful. But it still did a facial recognition on me with 81% confidence. That's amazing. On commodity cameras, on Microsoft's facial recognition API, which is free for developers, and in production, it's like a penny per 1,600 transactions, something like that. So it's cloud costed, ridiculously inexpensive. It's a REST API. You don't need to know anything about facial recognition. You just need to figure out how to send it a picture, and it sends back information after it deals with it in 3 milliseconds, and you process that information. The other ones are true integrations with security systems. The middle one is the NFL. I know you guys don't care about the NFL here, but in the US it's huge. We run this software in the NFL, NBA, hopefully hockey one day, and we are looking for the bad guy. Does everyone know who Taylor Swift is? Don't laugh, because I had to, honestly, I was convinced I'd never heard a Taylor Swift song until just recently, because that is so far out of my demographic. Miss Swift is so huge now that she's on a worldwide tour, like 350 dates, 2-year tour. She only plays huge stadiums. And here's the scary part. Remember we talked about responsibility as technologists and how scary some of this technology is? and how it could be used for bad and such. Miss Swift, in her own, I'm being recorded. Pretend like it's the most popular singer in the world that's not ABBA. That's not funny to you people, is it? It's funny to me. This person has over 2,000 people in her personal bad guy database. Over 2,000 people. These are people that have threatened her to the point where an authority had to get involved, whether it be police, the FBI, or something bigger. Not, I hate your music, you're an awful musician, you're whiny. These are real threats. 2,000 people in her database. And these people are they have permanent restraining orders from getting within 100 miles of her, but they still go to her concerts. And they still want to kill her. And they still want to do bad things to her. So we use this stuff in stadiums to handle that use case, to recognize these weirdos so they can be taken out and put in jail. That is an awesome, awesome application of computer vision, I think, making the world a safer place. And we're going to see more and more of this. This is just, in the ultimate creepiness, this is, the world's biggest retailers getting an audience measurement of people throughout their stores. I don't need to demo Power BI to you, but this is terabytes of consumer behavior data in an Azure SQL data warehouse and heat maps, and I see I don't know if you can see that in resolution, but age range by store. I got to go faster. Race, how engaged you are, how happy you are, how many times you look away from the advertising, all that type of stuff. All right, so I told you that you developers can do all this yourself. Let me just show you a little demo. This is the engine behind this particular software. I'm going to pick this little $20 HD camera I have plugged into my USB port. I could use the fancy camera I have on my Surface Book, and it is a fancy camera. But this is typical of a camera that you have in your smartphone. Whether it be an Android or an iPhone, it's still just a $4 camera. It's the software that makes it magical. Anyways, I'm going to throttle to call the Microsoft Cognitive API. Did I tell you this thing isn't styled on purpose? This is actually a test container that we use how we test the facial recognition, the age, race, gender thing. I'm 56 years old. The more I stare at this, the smarter this things get. Ultimately, this should get to 56. Normally, it says I'm 60. I noticed I looked away for a second because we could call this API, this is 30 frames per second camera, so we could call this 30 times a second. I'm calling it once per second. Of interest, look at the control on the right. That is the emotional profile. We don't pretend to know what to do with this. We just know Microsoft Cognitive could come back, give us this profile. There's authorities that could combine sadness and contempt and something else and provide propensity to steal, propensity for suicide, things like that. I'm curious about my contempt today, just because I hate United Airlines so much today. It's really not that high. Maybe it's because I feel comfortable here with you Swedes. Anyways, that's the engine that runs behind the scenes. TB, am I allowed to go 5 minutes late? Yes. Thank you. Because I've been telling too many stories. All right, now I'm just getting the good stuff. You may or may not have seen this. This was a demo, a live demo 2 years ago at the Microsoft Build conference. This, when I got to sit right up in front, probably right next to TB and Marcus at this show, watching Satya Nadella's keynote, and I was shocked. This was basically a live demo of, remember that I told you in the beginning, a blind man seeing? This demo saw everything in the room and recognized it, right? And then it went so far as to apply the artificial intelligence to a visitor not recognized in the employee database holding a tool, a jackhammer in this case, knowing he wasn't authorized to doing that and sending an alert. That's freaking amazing. So I sat in shock, like, holy cow, how are they pulling this off? From the audience, I'm emailing the head of Microsoft Custom Vision, the one that owns object recognition and all this. Brilliant lady, her name's Anna Roth. I'm like, how are you guys pulling this off? She says, well, we're kind of cheating. We have a server farm of over 2,000 computers back there, and we have 20,000 cameras aimed at this set. Right? It's totally not realistic, but the fact they pulled it off is cool, just not realistic until Moore's Law goes like this, and machine learning goes like this. So let me show you a little demo. I've been working on the object recognition thing for a very long time. Well, for me, us technology people, a long time is 6 months, right? But I've been working on this for a couple years. I've got a Coke and a Pepsi here. And I'm going to use that cheap little camera. I'm going to call this API once per second. And we're just in the beginning. Whoops. I'm 96%. That's a pistol. We already got to the point of my demo. The point of my demo is we can only see, in current machine learning terms, we can only see about 10 things reliably. If we see something else, it's just going to screw up. So now I've switched to the classifier I've built for Softrix. Microsoft has provided a machine learner for machine learning on their custom vision site so that you can create classifiers that do this type of thing. God, I hope this works. Whoops, there we go. And you can see pretty quickly it's got confidence that that's a Pepsi. I can just show you it's not smoke and mirrors. Very quickly it got confidence that that's a Coke. That's all fine and good. Hold what you're thinking. Hold that question for a second. I'm going to get to it. Let me just switch to weapons. Because we are now going into production in these systems I've been showing you, in recognize weapons in real time. And that means in an inexpensive way with commodity cameras and inexpensive Windows-based computers. I'm not allowed to bring an AR-14, 15. I'm so not a gun guy. 15, AR-14, 15, whatever these bad guy guns are. These are beautiful women holding guns. I can't bring a gun on stage, right? So I'll use a picture of a gun. And we'll switch to weapons, and on a cheap $20 HD camera, show you, right, it's got confidence that that's a pistol, and it's got huge confidence that's an AR-15. That's relatively impressive. Relatively impressive. The problem with that is, I don't know guns. What's another bad guy gun? Anyone? You guys don't know guns either. Isn't it funny that where I live in California, the only people that have guns are bad guys. We don't have hunting or anything like that. It's Southern California. So say it's a machine gun or something like that. If it got a frame of a picture of a machine gun, it would go, I don't know what the hell that is. I've only trained it for 2 types of things, right? We have to put this in production. So let me show you something ultra cool that Microsoft just came out with. And where did I put it? Here we go. Here's the portal I was talking about, customvision.api. God only knows why Microsoft called it custom vision, because really it should be called object recognition, but maybe that was trademarked or something, but it's called custom vision. Microsoft released a new API at Build 3 weeks ago that solved a huge problem I've had for 6 months that I have not been able to find the talent to be able to engineer. And that is, if I get a good shot out of a frame from a surveillance camera of a gun up close, we can do great confidence in figuring out that that's an AR-15. We could take the top 10 weapons, not the top 50, not the top 1,000, but the top 10 weapons, classify them and recognize them in real time if we get a giant shot of the weapon that's not occluded, meaning I have to see 100% of the thing, right? And I have to see it up close. We did not have the machine learning or the capability to look into a crowd of people and see half of a gun in one of your possession. We did not have that capability until 3 weeks ago. This is called custom vision object detection, and this picks out your classifiers from like an image of a crowd and gives you confidence. So I'll just go to the quick test. And no, we don't want to look at Tim's backpacking permits. We want like pictures. Bear with me. I would have put those in like weapons, maybe. Weapons, W. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Oh, yeah. This is not an American. There's no way that woman is an American. Look what happened. I don't know. It put a bounding box. It thinks Santa is a pistol. It put what we did, the technology we didn't have is to do that bounding box, right, around that. Let me give you something that I've machine learned a little better. I probably have machine learned. Yeah, I bet I machine learned this one. Because this isn't, yeah, I have. So after you do, this is a machine learner for machine learning, after you do the training, and like I could go in and tell it that Santa is not a gun and then retrain the model and keep doing that. This is all about inputs and outputs. The more data you have, and you can see it got a bounding box. It figured out where the pistol was in the frame and figured it out. That is freaking awesome. That's going to allow us to save lives. Us meaning all of us, not just the companies that I'm involved in. You may have heard about the massacre we had in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay. That crazy guy, this is not public knowledge and I'm being recorded, but I'm in Sweden, so oh well. That crazy guy was loading weapons under common surveillance cameras for 3 days, from the back of his trunk of his car into duffel bags and suitcases. He takes them up to his room. He comes back empty. He did that for 3 days under common surveillance cameras. The security people at Mandalay Bay have 500 screens in front of them. There's 6 to 10 people watching 500 screens. Humans just are not able to catch with 100% confidence, right? That's why we need tools like this to help humans. Had this technology been in place, it would have said, hey, look at camera 7. There's a 27% confidence that that's an AR-15. And that type of scenario could have, and I believe in the short-term future, could have been prevented. That's why this is awesome. All right, let me wrap this up just by talking about the HoloLens. Half of you beautiful Swedish people are under 30, so you don't know what the hell this is. But when I was young, this was awesome. But it was just a video, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our last hope. It was just a video of a hologram. I've made some bold predictions in my time. I predicted the death of the internet, so I was wrong on that one. But I believe we're very close to Star Trek-like holodeck type experiences within years. What we'll never have, unless we can figure out the God particle, is applying matter to mass, matter to a virtual object, meaning we can't touch a virtual object. That's what they had on Star Trek. That's probably never a doable thing. But nonetheless, we can simulate holographic experiences. That Hawking use case I gave you of talking to him, having talk in context, having him stand up from his wheelchair and walk over, we are within a few years of doing that type of thing. That's going to enrich our lives. It's going to enrich our learning. It's going to enrich our entertainment. We are going to have movies that end based on your reaction or our reaction, variable ending movies. We're going to have, this is what we're working on in Hollywood right now, interactive holographic experiences where you're in the environment in the movie theater. You'd have to wear glasses. Hopefully not a giant HoloLens device. Hopefully, regular, comfortable type glasses. That's what Hollywood will come out with in the next couple years. Totally immersed. Maybe it's a jungle with Schwarzenegger. Maybe the Predator guy or Terminator guy is running around among you. That's what they're working around at right now. You want to know why? Young people, millennials, don't go to movie theaters anymore. That's why movies lose money. One of the reasons many movies lose money. They watch on their smartphones. They watch on their computers. They watch Netflix, things like that. Hollywood has to adapt to that type of thing. So that's it. 7 minutes, sorry, TB. 7 minutes over. This is my contact information. If you want my PowerPoint deck to sell this to your own companies, you're more than welcome to it. A lot of these demos I can give you, or at least give you guidance. If I had my act together, I could just give you a link where you could download this stuff. If you email me, I promise I won't save your email address and put you on a list. I don't even know how to do that. I'm too old to do that, right? But so if you email me, I will take care of you. That's all I got. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Thanks so much for having me again. Have a great Dev Summit. Thank you.